Welcome back to another edition of What Your Money Can Buy within the Toronto real estate market. In this episode, we're going to revisit one of my favorite buildings, a building you've seen before on this channel in this series. I've talked about countless times, 25 Adriel Great Away, because I just purchased a 1+1, 2 washroom, 1 parking, 1 locker in this building for $720,000. And as always, I'm going to show you the unit, show you the building, and also it's not just a property tour. People say, hey Sam, why do you talk so much in these videos? Because I want these videos to be informative. I'm going to tell you what it says about the Toronto and GTA real estate market, because every single sale transaction is indicative of and reflective of the Toronto and GTA real estate market at the time they occur. Before we get into it though, hello everyone, this is Sam from SaberiSixRealEstate, Remax Realtron Realty Inc. You can find my contact information in the description box. For any buying or selling inquiries, it's easier than ever to get in touch with me. You can book a call with the link in the description, and feel free to subscribe to the channel for more Toronto condo reviews, area analysis, and so much more. You'll find this channel very informative if you are a Toronto home buyer or a potential seller or just a real estate enthusiast. All right guys, we're upstairs right now outside the unit. We're gonna go inside the unit shortly. I don't wanna bother the neighbors with my loud voice. Nonetheless though, the reason I'm shooting from the hallway, we do this anyways typically for these videos, but when you are in a building, and this might sound ridiculous to you, but it truly, from my experience, it really means a lot. When you are in the hallway of a building, just the width of the hallway, the height of the ceilings, the quality of the doors really do put forward the quality of the building. They are in some ways a key indicator of the quality of the building. So as we go inside the unit, and you know, my clients always laugh when I say this in this building, but I like the doors in this building. They're actual heavy, hefty doors. Once again, to me, that's an indicator of quality, right? They're not thin cardboard doors. Now we're inside, as always, my back against the door, right? You might recognize this unit, not because I've shown you this unit. Obviously, I just purchased this unit once again for $720,000, a 1+1, 2-bedroom, right at Shepherd Leslie, one of the best buildings in North York, 25 Adriel Great Away. So you won't recognize it because you've seen this unit. You will recognize it because I sold an exact replica of this unit last year. I sold a unit just 1 floor higher that was once again an exact replica of this unit. The only difference was it was 1 floor higher. And this is what I mean with regards to these videos, and we will get along. I'll show you the unit, I'll show you the property. However, this is what I mean. This is what this transaction says about the Toronto and GTA real estate market. I bought this for my client early April for $725,000, an exact replica of this unit, which I sold the year previous, which you can check out in this video, which is also on YouTube. I sold for my seller for $725,000. So what does that tell us? That tells us that despite the larger market trends, right now for top shelf listings and top shelf buildings in the North York area, and in some cases other pockets that I'll touch on in other videos, such as the waterfront Pickering area, certain pockets in the Etobicoke, certain pockets in York region, right now the market is either pretty flush with last year or marginally down. But I'll obviously touch on the transaction a bit more as we go along. But now, cameraman, shift this way. This is a 1+1. This is the +1. Now the unit I sold was staged, and I do, if you go check out that video, you will see what we did with the staging for the unit I sold, which will give you some ideas of what type of use you can make out of this space. For instance, in this case, you know, there was an office desk and an office chair. Once again, not this unit when we bought it, but the exact replica unit that I sold. So this is the +1. I've actually seen some listings that kind of under the table are using this as a 2nd bedroom, which you really can't. But this is the +1 right by the door. Now behind the cameraman, come this way so that people can get some sort of sense of geography. This is the first washroom, right? Now that's key. This is a 1+1 with 2 washrooms. Why is that key? Why is 2 washrooms key? Because nowadays 1+1s for new buildings, oftentimes you're only getting 1 washroom. In fact, in really bad and kind of mediocre buildings, you're getting 2-bedroom units now with 1 washroom. A second additional washroom is just such a lifesaver, especially in this case when it's a full washroom. It's not a half, it has a shower. All right, now we're in the kitchen area. The kitchen is pretty simple, pretty standard. It's one of these side kitchens, right? This unit is a introductory unit in this building, right? This building does get pretty expensive and unit layouts get pretty elaborate. It's also a pretty pricey building. The average per square foot in the last couple of months has been around 1,080 to 1,085. When the market was hot, the average per square foot price was actually much higher. It was around $1,100 to $1,150 per square foot for some, in some cases for some sales. But yeah, you have your typical standard kitchen here. And there isn't really much space for a legit island here. You could get an island, but it's gonna be a bit restrictive. You do have space for something a little bit more movable, like a small dining table, maybe a 4-seater. It does have enough space for that. And then you have the rest of the floor plan. Now, one thing about this floor plan and these units is they have high ceilings. High ceilings really help with making the space seem even larger. In terms of pure square footage, this unit is around 660, and the high ceilings do really help in terms of, once again, opening up the space. Now, one thing I told my clients in this case, and I always tell people, I did it for my own home. When I purchased my home, it had popcorn ceilings, and this does have popcorn ceilings. What I always recommend, and it's easy for me to say, it's harder for my clients to do because they have to pay for it, but smooth out the popcorn ceilings, get a fresh coat of paint on that, something that reflects light, and it's gonna seem even larger and brighter. And that's exactly what I did for my own property and made a world of difference. And my ceilings were not as high as this, by the way. And obviously it is a newer condo. This building is only just a year old. We'll get to talking about building quality in a sec. You've heard me talk about this building countless times. I'll never get tired of talking about this building because it's one of the best Toronto condo buildings in my opinion. But nonetheless, it is a newer building. So obviously the layouts, even in the $700,000 range, are going to be smaller, especially because it's also a premium building. Nonetheless, it's functional. It's not one of these small layouts that's not functional. You can really easily see what you can do with the space, right? You can have the TV on this side and the couches on that side. So there is really a lot to do with the space, especially considering, once again, it is just a 1+1, but with 2 washrooms. Never forget about that. That is a lifesaver. Now let's go take a look at the balcony, take a look at the exposure, and then we'll use that as a jumping off point to talk about the building and the area. Come on. Now, cameraman, for the people to get an idea of how big the balcony is, back up, back up, back up, back up, so they can have an understanding of what type of size we're dealing with here. The balcony is pretty large, I would say, right? And this is what I like about this building, right? This building has large balconies for these 1+1 units. And the exposure is a combination of eastern and northern exposure. You can see some west, but it's mostly northern and eastern. And most of the exposure is going to be protected for the next decade, really, because it's all residential homes. You do have a plaza with a Shoppers and a gas station. As of now, there's no application on that, but most of the exposure, you're looking at mostly greenery. Which leads me to talk about the building. I love this building so much, you have no idea. This is my 3rd transaction in this building. I sold the replica unit of this last year. I also purchased a 2-bedroom unit, a 2+1, that I didn't film for YouTube because my client was not comfortable with that, and obviously my client's comforts always come first before my YouTube content. Nonetheless, my 3rd transaction in this building, I absolutely love this building. I've talked about it in my best Toronto condo video, all the reasons I love it, but quickly put, it's such a fantastically managed building. The quality is great. A lot of thought went into this building. The building is a big building with a lot of units, a west lobby, east lobby, but everything flows together. Its configuration has been thought through. It's very logical. I like the architecture of the building. The building's location is fantastic. It's backing into a ravine that eventually leads to the Don River Trail. You're surrounded by green, but at the same time, you're not sacrificing a lack of centrality. You're close to Leslie Station, you're close to Bayview Village, you're close to, you know, the IKEA, the Canadian Tire, so many other things everyone needs on a daily basis. Also, the amenities in the building are fantastic. The gym is great, party room is great. You have a barbecue area, big terrace area that's just for barbecuing. And the people who live in this building, whether they're tenants or owners, are usually very dignified and high quality people. It's mostly owners. I mean, relative obviously to the condo market, right? You do have your fair share of tenants. Ultimately, this is the Toronto condo market. You're gonna have a significant portion of tenants in most buildings, but in this building, it's mostly owners, and the tenants who are there are very decent and very quality people. And one last thing I'll mention about this building, and once again, if you want to hear me talk about this building more, check out my Best Toronto Condo Buildings video. One last thing I'll mention about this building, This building is probably, when you take a look at the 0.5 kilometer radius of all the buildings in this intersection, is not probably, is absolutely the best building, bar none. So when you buy into a building like this, you're always going to have the best product, because the competition, when you want to sell it down the line, might be cheaper, might be more affordable, but is not as quality. What am I talking about in terms of competition? This building is for sure, this building is better than most of the garbage buildings, in my professional opinion, at the Fairview Mall area. A lot of those buildings, I believe, are garbage. And then you have your not so garbage, but very, very mediocre options at Shepherd and Leslie. The Concord Kings Landing buildings, the McMahon Drives, the Singer Courts, the other addresses that I can't think of off the top of my mind. Those 8 to 10 building clusters at Shepherd and Leslie, which I talked about in this TikTok. Everyone knows Concord's massive master plan community in downtown and City Place, but not many people know Concord has a huge master plan community in North York, right at Shepherd and Leslie. All these towers you see along with the community center is Concord's latest master plan community that has long been underway, combining about 8 to 10 towers with 2 upcoming in the King's Landing towers. All these buildings belonging to McMahon Drive, Singer Courts, and new residential addresses upcoming make up the latest example of the extreme densification that's happening at the major intersections of Toronto. Now, as you know, I am personally, as a Toronto real estate agent, kind of lukewarm on Concord. I think they have some hits, but those are far and few in between. Some of these buildings are serviceable and sufficient. Others I would personally recommend my clients avoid and have done so in the past. As always, for more on the Toronto condo market or real estate market, follow me for more or get in touch with any buying or selling inquiry. This building is better than those, I would say, more mediocre choices. We're walking into the primary bedroom now. Let's take a look at the primary bedroom. And the primary bedroom is average in size, I would say, for this building. Compared to other buildings, I would also say it's pretty average. Even the more mediocre ones I mentioned in Singer Court and McMahon Drive, or the garbage ones in Fairview, I would say in terms of comparing to the Fairview condos, this is actually larger. For the 1+1s, comparing to the McMahon Drive and the Concord ones, it's pretty on par in terms of size. Once again, you do have the higher ceilings that help a lot. You have a window access, right? You have these floor to ceiling windows, which help a lot. You have a walk-in closet that's to the cameraman's left. And behind the cameraman is the ensuite primary washroom. Now you might be saying to yourself, Sam, you keep mentioning the importance of 2 washrooms. Why is it so important? Well, for most people, whether they're couples or they're, a bachelor living by themselves, whoever it is, 2 washrooms is the biggest lifesaver, because you have 1 washroom for guests, or you have 1 washroom for your partner, and then you have a washroom for yourself. And if you cannot connect the dots as to the multiple reasons why that would be a lifesaver, nonetheless, what else does this purchase of mine say about the market? Well, it says something very simple. When we looked at this property, obviously we looked at this unit for sale in this building, and there were probably 3 to 4 other units that were also 1+1s for sale in this building, but they were different in marginal ways. Some were bigger, some even had higher ceilings, one didn't have a locker, one didn't have 2 washrooms. So they were kind of the same, but not exact replicas like the one I sold. Nonetheless, when we saw it, we really saw, and at the time I discussed with my client, this is the best priced one. So when we saw this unit for sale, this was listed for $725. In fact, the listing agent used my sale as a comp to really price this unit, the one I sold for $725. And this was listed for $725. The other ones were listed for $750, in one case $760, $745. And as always, my clients who found me from this channel, or my friends, can attest, whenever I do buyer showings, I always come prepared with the comps. So you have an idea of what the market value is, if it's fairly priced, if it's poorly priced, what the situation is. And I told my client at the time very distinctly, this is the most fairly priced one, and I know this building like the back of my hands. Once again, I know I've mentioned it a million times because I sold an exact replica of this unit. And although when we saw it was spring market, and although when we saw it, North York was outperforming downtown, which is still the case, by the way. Downtown is in a horrendous situation right now. The spring market still wasn't as hot as last year, or God forbid, 2022. So naturally, in a market that is, a little bit active, but not absurdly seller friendly, the best priced units are going to get the most attention, and that's exactly what happened. I said, look, let's not bother with those in the 760s, 750s. Let's go for something that is in the 720s. And furthermore, we actually had our eyes on another unit in the older building. It's also a really good building as well, that we could have gotten for the 660, 650s. Ultimately, we decided to go for something a little bit more premium, a little bit more luxury, a bit better resale value down the line. My point is, even in an area by 2024 standards that is pretty decently active for condos, which is North York, right? Because you can't say that about downtown, you can't say that about midtown. Buyers still have the power. Buyers still have the options to negotiate, to go between units, to see multiple listings in one building, to take their time. And that's exactly what we did in this case. We saw a bunch of listings, a couple overpriced. We went for the most fairly priced one, and we managed to get it at fair market value. All right, guys, that is it for today's video. Thank you very much for watching yet another edition of What Your Money Can Buy in the Toronto and GTA real estate market. For any buying inquiries or selling inquiries, feel free to get in touch with me with my contact information in the description box. You can book an appointment to chat right now. Thank you very much for watching. Stay safe and stay tuned. Thank you.